It is a football Friday here on Birds 365 with your two good buds, Mac and Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. Johnny Mac, the Eagles roster building season continues, and it's a long one, as Howie Roseman likes to point out, all the way up to the trade deadline and or in-season signings, of which the Eagles made a couple this year at the defensive tackle position. Well, yesterday was the addition of a defensive tackle guy, Kentavius Street. Now, when I saw the name, heard about the signing, I said, well, I remember him from the draft a couple of years ago, and he was somewhat well thought of, got hurt before the actual draft and probably cost them some positioning in the draft. But I remember thinking he was a pretty good player coming out of college, and then he's had the injury issues that he's had. And 5 years into his NFL career, 4 with the 49ers, 5 with the Saints, I would describe him as a Jag. He's
just a guy.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean,
if he becomes more than that, I'll be glad to eat some Eagle Crow right here on Birds 365 if he is a major disruptor on the defensive line. I'm not saying it's a bad signing by any stretch of the imagination. We don't even know what the dollar values are. So you cannot come to.
I got a pretty good indication what they are.
I could go out on that same limb with you and say, I think I know where he's going to fall. But until we know that, we don't know that. He's got a chance. He's going to be part of the mix. He's a depth signing is what I look at Kentavius Street as. Do you have higher hopes or lesser hopes, or what was the first thing you thought of when you heard that the Eagles were adding Kentavius Street to their defensive tackle mix?
Draft proofing the roster, is how I like to describe it. So, you need a certain amount of bodies at certain positions, and you want to have at least a fallback plan available so you don't feel the need to reach in the draft. And by reach, I mean anywhere. But forget about first round, second. I mean, even seventh round. You don't want to feel the need, oh, we got to get a defensive tackle.
Right.
So you just take the best defensive tackle. So that's how I look at it. That's what they're doing. Howie this week out in Arizona called them lottery ticket signings. They try to find, he fits the theme, mid-20s. You mentioned he's played 5 years. He's going to be 27 in May. So he's, still young. He's got some upside. You mentioned the injury, hurt himself at his pro day, actually. So he missed his entire rookie season, but he has been able to get back and be relatively healthy over the past number of years. Undersized guy, so he's more of the 3 technique. In a lot of ways, I'm not comparing them as players, but he's the same type of player as Javon Hargrave. He's a better pass rusher than he is a run defender, which is kind of a theme with the Eagles defense, it seems. But yeah, I mean, it's a lottery ticket. And if 1 or 2 of those guys of the group hits, great. If 1 hits, great. But I saw a bunch of people really excited about this signing. I'm like, I don't know if you've seen this guy play. 102nd of 127 per Pro Football Focus. Really, and I said it, really undersized. I mean, really poor against the run. I saw a bunch of Saints writers talking about it. I mean, he was getting blown off the ball in the run game. So, rotational player at best, and it will not preclude the Eagles from drafting a defensive tackle if they feel a defensive tackle is warranted at any point.
Right. What it comes down to for me is, and I know we're a long way off from this, but is he better than Marlon? To me, that's kind of, and I know they're not the same exact type of player, but you've got X amount of guys within the defensive tackle rotation. Marlon, of course, injured last year. but given the chance, the coaching staff led by Nick Sirianni would always talk up Marlon, and they always included him in the mix when they were running down all the options that they have at the defensive tackle position. Is this guy going to be better than Marlon? To me, that's what it comes down to. Like you said, you got to hit on a lottery ticket. Anybody can buy a lottery ticket, but then you got to hit it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you hit it and you get a couple of bucks more than you shelled out for the ticket. You're hoping for the grand prize payoff, which I really don't think Kentavius Street is going to be, but that's why you buy a lottery ticket. And sometimes you look at a ticket and you didn't match any numbers and you move off it pretty quickly. And that's what I'll say about Kentavius Street. I'm not saying he's got no chance to make this team. I'm saying he's not a given to make this team. I think he's part of the depth and part of the evaluation process during this offseason, and we'll see where it goes. You mentioned the fact that, if they think they need to draft a defensive tackle, they're going to draft a defensive tackle. Unless they got 2 more lottery ticket signings that are going to come over the next 27 days, because that's how far we have to go between now and the draft. That is going to be a position where they're going to hit the refresh button and try and get a young stud that they can keep in the mix for
because remember, Jody, and remember how deep they were at defensive tackle last year. I mean, they play a lot of defensive tackles. So it wouldn't surprise me if he made the team as sort of that 5th defensive tackle playing, 15 snaps a game or something like that as a rotational player. But he played 46% of the snaps in New Orleans, I believe the number was. If it gets that high, you're in trouble. That means things didn't go the way you planned.
46 is a pretty big number.
Very big number. And that means
doesn't seem like it, but it is. If you know how most teams deploy their defensive tackles.
Well, even more so with the Eagles, because they're deeper than most teams. So a lot of teams still, I think we get, hyper. Well, we do. That's the name of the show, right? We get hyper focused on the Eagles. Most teams aren't as deep as the Eagles. So if you have a star defensive lineman, they're playing, 85, 90% of the snaps, because they don't have that kind of depth. And that's one of the things Nick Sirianni loves, is thinks he has an advantage, or he did last year with the depth. But the Eagles came at you in waves and waves and waves and waves. So they're even more so. They want that rotation. And if he's playing that much, that means Fletcher's hurt. That means Milton's not playing the way Milton's supposed to play. Draft pick potentially. Yeah, you're right, though. Differing positions. Marlon's interesting because he can kind of toggle back and forth. He's a pretty good run defender, and he can play a little 3 technique, a little 4-eye technique. This guy's a strict 3 technique, 4-eye technique, and he's really undersized. So I keep talking about the Eagles defending the run. I talked about it last year, and it didn't matter. I mean,
when did they start worrying about the run, John?
They don't care. And now people, they got gashed by Isaiah Pacheco in the Super Bowl at times. They're not very good. That they don't care. It's evident. They bring in Nick Morrow at linebacker. They're playing Kobe Dean, who I think has got a chance to be a really good player, but he's really undersized. Hassan Reddick, we talk about how undersized they are up front. Now you're bringing in a 287-pound defensive tackle to go along with it. It's basically Jordan Davis, stop the run. That's basically. I feel bad for Jordan. I really do. They play 2 high safeties all the time. They're turning nickel cornerbacks into safeties.
They signed Edmonds. That's the one.
That's true. That's true. He's the one.
And one signing who's more stopping the run than covering the pass.
Let me say, okay, Jordan Davis and Terrell Edmonds. Go stop the run.
Exactly right. And by the way, I don't judge a player's ability to stop the run purely by it. I'm not saying you do either, but you're leaning toward it. You get on the scale and then tell me whether you can stop the run or can't. That it's all about weight. No, it isn't, because there are some guys that are undersized that are great at stopping the run. There are some big guys that are big that can't stop the run because they can't even move. So I'm not falling into that trap of
Yeah, you could be 350 pounds and be a terrible player and not be able
exactly.
to. And Aaron Donald, he could still, even though people would criticize him at times. I don't think they know that what they were looking at. But um, in the case of Jordan Davis, most specifically, because I think there's so many Eagles fans. He's got to rush the passer. He's got to rush the passer. He's got to rush the passer. He's not here to be Aaron Donald. He's not here to be Jalen. He's here to be Haloti Nada, and not the Haloti Nada who played here at the end of his career. The guy who's making Pro Bowls early in his career. That's who he's here to be. He's here to be Pat Williams. If you remember Pat Williams, he's here to be that guy. He's not here to be the pass rusher. So I do think there's a difference, but you're right. I mean, they have Noah Ellis, who's Christian's brother, who's 350. I don't know if he can play.
Right.
I mean, he's got the frame. You could see what they're thinking. Let's get a backup for that position, but you got to be able to play on top of it.
And oh, by the way, with Jordan Davis, and don't kid yourself, he's going to be very much a key for the Philadelphia Eagles this year. I acknowledge that he's never going to be a number getter. He's not going to be a guy who's going to get 8 sacks or something like that. He may, but just don't think it's fair to project that on him at this stage of his career. And he's going to take up 2 blockers, and he's going to make it easier for everybody else on the line. Give you all that. I want to see a couple more tackles this year. And he's a rookie, so he gets startup cost deduction. This year, he's got to make some more tackles. Doesn't have to be sacks. Doesn't always have to be tackles for loss, but he's got to make a couple more tackles. And, of course, he missed games and was injured this past year, but his numbers were a little underwhelming.
Well, you know me, Jody. I said day one, I was worried about it. And I used esoteric. I said, I think this pick is esoteric, and I don't think a lot of people are going to get it. And, when you're picked 13 in the draft, and I see it I see it every day on Twitter. He's got to get to the passer. He's got to get to the passer. He's got to get to the passer. I was worried about that because of the expectations. Now, I don't think the Eagles give up flying hoots. If he turns into the player they think he's going to be, they're going to be fine with it. As I said, if he turns into Haloti Nada in his prime, they're going to be fine with it. But yeah, for the people who think, he's going to rush the passer, and I've heard it, Damo says it. And I have there's nobody more in the world I respect than Damo. Because of his unique physical gifts, we've never seen a guy that size move like Jordan Davis when you do the measurables at the combine. Because of his unique athletic ability at his size, there's some projection that, he could be a good pass rusher and be what the Eagles expect him to be. And maybe that's the case because he is so unique. But, I don't think that was ever the plan. I think the plan was, go take up 2 blockers and let the other guys make the plays. I think that's the plan. I think that remains the plan.
See, and this is where I come down more on he's got to get to the quarterback, even though I'm not saying that. Just taking up 2 blockers is not enough for me. If you're the 13th pick in the draft, you got to do more than take up 2 blockers. You got to make a play every once in a while. You got to actually make a tackle. You can't be just a guy who deploys. Because, I don't think you do. I know the Eagles do, but I know I don't. Do I break down every play of the defense and try and figure out exactly whether he took up 2 blockers on each and every single play? No, I don't. I don't have that type of access, that type of tape. So, you got to make a play every once in a while. It doesn't have to be like a Fletcher Cox, 7 or 8 sacks. That's not his game. And you should have known that the day that you draft him, that if he has one season where he has more than 7 sacks, I'll be happy for it if he plays a decade for the Eagles. But I'm not just giving him he's so big and he's going to take up 2. I don't know that he takes up 2 blockers on every single play.
Well,
and if that's not the case, you got to make a tackle every once in a while, big guy.
Well, that they do. That's kind of the point. I'm saying if he develops into the player they think, like they're not going to care. They're not, because again, I use that word esoteric. Say it turns into Georgia, right? And Nakobe Dean turns into a Pro Bowl linebacker for 3 years because they won't resign him for the 4th year. But then it's like they're fine. They're cool. They don't care. Everybody can say what they want on Twitter and say, "Oh, he's got to get a go. He's got to get a sack." But if Fletcher's if Fletcher turns into 7 sacks to 9 sacks or 10 sacks, how do you measure that? Well, you can't really measure that with traditional statistics. They measure it with Alec Hallaby and all the analytics, and they know what they want him to do. Now, he hasn't done what they want him to do yet. That's why they went out and got Linval Joseph. Now, he was trending in a positive direction before he got hurt. He was playing pretty well. I think people forget before he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and then it was pretty much, I think there's some concern there as well because it took him a long time to get back from that injury. So I think there's some legitimate concerns. But I think from their standpoint, if everything else falls into place, they're fine with it. They're completely fine with it. But I don't think other people are going to be fine with it, which is one of the difficult positions of running an NFL team. Because when you do take somebody at 13, we talk about expectations all the time. There are expectations. And my concern from day one is he's not going to live up to those expectations, even if he becomes a really good player and what the Eagles think he's going to become. He's not going to live up to those expectations. That was my concern.
Right. And my point is where, again, I guess I'm defending those who are questioning Jordan Davis. 13 is pretty damn high for esoteric.
That's what I mean.
If you're going 13, if you take a guy in the mid-second round and he's a guy who's going to make other players around him better, he's not going to give you anything you can statistically latch onto. Okay, I'll buy that. I'll believe you when you say he's doing things that are giving others the chance to put the stats on the board. Trading up to number 13, you got to show me a little bit more than just esoteric. It doesn't have to be stats because we know, sacks, because we know that's what, and it's not even with the Philadelphia defensive critics. It's all about pressure. And you'll never be pressure. You'll never be considered part of pressure if you're playing defensive tackle. It's all about the blitz. It's all about the extra guy. It's all about going above and beyond. So you're never even going to get any credit for that, which of course is wrong. If you are doing a job going up the middle and collapsing the pocket, you should get credit for that. But you got to give me something other than just doing a job because the coaches say so. Watching the film, you gotta hang a stat on the board. It doesn't have to be sacks. It could be pressure. It could be hits. It could be tackles. But you got to put something up on the board.
Well, let me ask you this then, Jody, because I'll go back to Haloti Ngata, and it's interesting because Haloti, I just looked it up, was the number 12 pick in the draft. Number 12. Now, if he turns into that player, is he worth it? Like you're saying, you got to put things up. In Haloti's case, well, he put up Pro Bowls and all pros. He had 32 sacks in 14 years. But he was so dominant, So that's what he's going to put up if he turns into play. He's going to put up all pros. He's going to put up Pro Bowls. But what he's not going to put up is statistics.
Sack numbers, yeah.
Is that worth it? That's where
it can be. Absolutely can be. But it seems like you got not as statistics in front of you.
Yeah, 32 and a half sacks in 14 years.
What was his top tackles number?
Top tackle number was 64.
Okay, so wake me when Jordan. I won't ask him to get to 64 because that was over a long period of time. Wake me when he gets 50 tackles. How many tackles did Jordan Davis have last year?
He got 50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of his 14 years.
6 out of 14 years. And
now,
Jordan Davis had what last year? And he missed 5 games, so 13 games. Did he even get 25 tackles?
I'd have to look it up, but no, I doubt it.
Yeah.
In his first year as the 12th overall pick, he had 31 tackles. Haloti Ngata played all 16 games. So less than 2 a game. Is it worth it? I say yes. A lot of people say no.
I say
if he becomes that player.
I say wait and see.
Well,
I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying year one. We got 1 year to evaluate with injuries. Put that into the mix because, as you correctly pointed out, the Eagles had gone out and gotten the 2 veteran tackles. So even when he came back from the injury afterwards, the amount of snaps that he was taking, I guarantee you, Haloti Ngata, in every single year that he played in the NFL was taking a higher percentage of snaps than Jordan
not
Davis
late in
did
his
this
career.
year.
I mean, we saw him here late in his career, but obviously I'm not talking about late in his career. I'm talking about in his prime, and I'm just saying that's a great player. I mean, that is a borderline Hall of Fame player.
Right, but he's a perfect comparison because, as you just pointed out, Ngata was the 12th pick, Jordan Davis was the 13th pick. So expectations should line up right with each other.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, Jody, if he turns into Haloti Ngata, and the odds are against that, to be blunt. I mean, that is a really good player. As I said, borderline Hall of Fame player. If he turns into that, will people say it's worth it? I don't even know if they will.
Well,
I don't even know if they will.
If they don't, then they don't understand football. But I will say in season 1, with explanations, injury issues, and the way the season went, and Eagles signing other guys, he doesn't look Haloti Ngata like just yet. He's still got to get there. Surely you hope he can, but he didn't come out and jump to that immediate comparison in year number 1. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are your Mac and Mac guys. Oh, look who's aboard, waiting in the dark room. It's not the waiting room. It's the dark room when it is.
It looks pretty light in there. Looks pretty light.
It's a sunny day. Yeah, he's covering his eyes. Bob Groats from the Delco Times going to join us next here on Birds 365.
Go to